The email is saying more or less, because you do not meet the requirement for the bridging work permit because your permanent residence is something not go through. Hi everyone, my name is Rika and thank you so much for stopping by my channel again. So in today's video, I want to talk about my journey from being an international student to becoming a permanent resident in Canada. And the timeline was give or take about 2 years, but I'll get more into that and you'll see why it's give or take. Anyhow, if this is a video that you think will interest you, feel free to keep watching. If this is a path that you're thinking about taking, I think this video would be really informative with some of the resources that you will actually need to make this a successful path for you. Or if you know someone who's thinking about this path, feel free to share this video with them. I do have an exaggerated list because I wear Invisalign, so just a disclaimer there, sorry about that. With that out of the way, we can definitely jump on into the timeline and all the steps that I definitely took. So, when you decide to come to Canada, I mean, the journey doesn't really begin when you step foot in Canada. There's a lot of preparation that I believe any international student that you speak to will tell you that it took a lot of preparation before they even got the chance to come in Canada. I decided that I want to come to Canada, I think maybe like January of 2018, and then I applied for schools in February. I got my acceptances not too long after. I think I got my last acceptance in June or July, and that was for Humber, and I decided that I would just go ahead and go to Humber. So after I got my acceptance, I started gathering my documents that I would need for my visa application. So I started getting bank statements together, paid my tuition to hold my spot, police report, and whatever documents that they outline. When you're going through it, you'll see all those documents that you will need, and I guess it varies from country to country. Got all of those. I submitted my application, I believe in October of 2018, and then I got my acceptance in November. Now, in the acceptance, what you get in your passport is a visa for entrance to the country. It's not your study permit. I left Jamaica in December, and then I got to Canada in December. When I got to Canada, I actually got my study permit along with my work permit because the course that I was doing had a co-op option. So that means that there's like an internship attached to it. So I actually needed a work permit to go along with that. And it was great that they gave me that at the border, so I didn't have to apply for it later. I didn't have to apply for it once I was going to school. And you would kind of need, I think you need it, or maybe just need your study permit, I don't know. But you need one or two, or you need both of them to apply for your temporary SIN number that you get as a student. All right, cool. So we're in Canada now, excitement, lovely, New Year's, great. So then school begins in January. School started from January and ended in August. I believe it was 8 courses per semester. In the second semester, it was 7 courses and an internship. So I guess still technically 8 courses. I chose to do my internship in my final semester. So that was great. I left school in August and I started working in HR in September. I know that seems like a very short time span, like, oh, you left school August and then you start working in September in an HR job. That's amazing. If you watch my previous videos, you would know that my job hunting process was very long and tedious, and it was about 3 months. So after I left school in August, I knew that it was time to apply for my postgraduate work permit. I believe your official transcript or your official school leaving document, I forget what it's really called, I'll probably put it on the screen if one of those that I said was not correct. So that comes maybe 2 weeks after you leave school, or I think probably like mid to early September. So by the time I had gotten a job, because I got my job, my starting date was for late September, I would have already gotten that and applied for my postgraduate work permit. I was then in implied status because my current work permit that I had from school didn't expire yet. I believe that didn't expire until that year, December. They gave you 1 year.
So the initial work permit that I would have gotten, that work permit is only for co-op reasons, and I could also use that work permit to work 20 hours per week while I was a student. It wasn't a work permit that I could just use to start working. So to start working, I had to apply for the postgraduate work permit. I hope that didn't confuse anyone.
And the visa that I got from Jamaica gave me, I think, 1 year and 3 months. So it does give you a little bit of wiggle room for, I guess, if you need to do that extra semester. Honestly, I don't really know why they give that wiggle room, but I love it. So during that time, I was in implied status and I had just applied for my postgraduate permit, and that was it. I was able to work. My employers didn't have an issue with it, and that was that. I then got my actual postgraduate work permit in December. So I believe the date on it was at December 12th of 2018. it was issued, I believe the date of it was for December 12 of that same year. So December 12, 2019, and then it would expire December 12 of 2020. I got a 1-year permit because I did a 1 academic year program. So you get a longer time, I believe, if you do like a 2-year program. Well, for me, it's a 1-year program. But I guess the trick to kind of extend it is to use that implied status to the best of your ability. So I was in implied status for September, October, and November. So that's 3 additional months. So realistically, I got 1 year, 3 months because the implied status kind of helped me out there. All right, have my postgraduate work permit, continuing to work. From my previous videos, you guys would have known that I lost my job. I believe it was in March of 2020, so I ended up losing my job. So that was kind of scary for me because if you know anything about the express entry process, to get maximum points, there's certain criteria that you have to meet. So with a 1-year work permit now, you want to have at least 1 year of Canadian work experience in order to get maximum points for there. You want to have you also want to have a really high score in your English test. So when I lost my job, it was very scary for me. I knew that I had a little bit of wiggle room just because I had that implied status for about 3 months and I was able to work during that time. But I knew that I didn't have a lot of time to find another job in order to meet the criteria of having at least 1 year work experience, 1 year Canadian work experience. So anyways, lost my job, was looking for jobs, COVID, everything, that spiel. I ended up getting a job in June, so I would have only been out of work for April, May. So I got a job in June, just in time. So then I started to think about my profile for express entry shortly after. I started to study for my English test. I studied for about a month, and then I did the English test. I got 2 12s and 2 11s. 12 is the highest that you can get, so I thought those scores were really, really good and would give me really, really good points. So after I did that, I started gathering documents from my previous employers, because you do need job descriptions for what you were doing before, so that it's to show that it matches up to the different NOC codes that they have. I also needed bank statements, because you have to prove that you have a certain amount of money to sustain yourself in the country. Oh no, so if you have 1 year work experience, apparently you don't need that. So I think I didn't actually submit any bank statements because I didn't need that because I had 1 year work experience in Canada. Sorry, scratch that. But if you don't have 1 year experience, you'll probably need that. I also needed police report and what else? I needed my degree from Jamaica evaluated. So police report, degree from Jamaica evaluated, your my information from Humber in terms of school, my jobs from back home, and if applicable, the police what that name? If applicable, the money where you would have in your account up here shows here have the requisite money. I think it was like $13,000. Anyhow, so the thing that took me the longest to kind of gather, well, not necessarily the longest, but I guess the most tedious for me was the police report, and that's kind of why I made a video about it, because it was kind of like frustrating. You have to get things notarized all over the place. You can watch the video to kind of get a gist of what's entailed. So that was that. So ended up getting my police report, I believe like early December. I applied to be in the pool, I believe in like mid-November thereabouts. Yeah, mid-November, because I would have had the 1 year work experience. Oh yeah, so I applied to be in the pool. I am not a good storyteller, if you can't tell. So I applied to be in the pool in November, because November was when I would have had the 1 year work experience. And then because I don't want to submit like falsified documents or falsified information, so I waited until I actually had the 1 year experience, submitted. When they accepted me, I think that's when I began like getting the documents together for like my police report and the other things. I would have had them already because I kind of could have preempted those. So the police report was the most tedious for me, as I mentioned earlier, and I had a whole video on that. Got that together. By the time all the documents came, it was maybe 1 week before my permit expired. 1 week. Maybe about 1 week. So now I submit my documentation, submit in the pool, everything. Them say like, yeah, we'll get you something then, we're gonna make you know what I want. So then I had to apply for a bridging work permit, and that's to cover the time between when you've applied for your permanent residence and to when you get it, because you apply for it, it takes a while. You don't get it right away, and you need to have some type of work authorization in between that time. I guess implied status doesn't really work for that. Or I'm not an immigration specialist, I'm just telling you what happened for me. So went ahead, applied for the bridging work permit, and I was like, whew. All right, that Gucci. So, I submit the application and I wait. I'm here wait. January comes around, I get an email. Let me see if I can even jump back into my old something. So on January 19, after I submitted my application in December 8th. So I submitted December 8th. I remember my work permit was going to expire December 15th. Yeah. So then I get this message. Remember, my work permit was going to be expired December 15th, and I submitted this application for permanent residency and express interest, submit up everything December 7th. So I didn't give myself a lot of wiggle room right there. And I got this email on January. I saw that there was an update in my profile because they don't really send you emails like that with your personal information. You have to go back in your profile. So there was an update in my profile. So I'm like, this was quick. Like, they fully approved my PR application so quick. So to give you like just a recap back on the timeline, remember that we started in just call it 2019, January 2019. We'll go through all of January 2019, we'll work, we'll go to school. All of 2020, we know what happened. So I ended up having my first job, losing that job, panorama happening, and I got another job. I reached my required like 1 year in order to get the maximum points for permanent residence in November of 2020. So we are now at 2019, 2020. That's 2 years. And this is January 2021. So here we are. It says other. So then I am like, other? What do they mean other? So I open it and it says other something. But what my eye go to is, we have determined your application does not meet the requirement completed as described in section whatever section. I did not feel good. I will tell you that much. Like, I did not feel good. Like, I felt sick to my stomach. I was just like, what am I supposed to do? And after that initial jolt, I kind of actually read more into it to be like, okay, how can I fix this? Because like, I'm extremely disappointed right now, but how can I fix it? So it says specifically your application does not meet the following elements. Educational credentials. Do you remember when I told you that I got my degree assessed from Jamaica? This is very important. A completed educational credential, ECA, issued for immigration purpose was not included in your application. So I just had that it was like a general evaluation of my degree, not an evaluation for immigration purposes. I was just told I was to get my degree evaluated. Like, I didn't know it was supposed to be for immigration purposes, or maybe I didn't read enough. Anyways, that made them say that it does not meet the requirement. So yeah, we consider it. They didn't say it was denied, but they considered it incomplete and refunded me my money. What me I gonna do, you know? I wasn't even thinking about the bridging work permit at this point. I was just like, I have no idea like what to do. The next week comes, I get another email, and the email, I can just like paraphrase at this point. Because you do not meet the requirements for the bridging work permit because your permanent residence is something not go through. Listen, I was not having a good 2 weeks. So I was just like, bruh, what? So then it said that I'm currently out of status in the country. So that means that I have no immigration status. So before I was on a work permit, and then I was on implied status. I was on a study permit, then implied status, then we'll go up on a work permit. While I was applying for the bridging work permit, I was on implied status. But now that the permanent residency has been considered incomplete and my bridging work permit has now been denied, I am now out of status. What am I going to do? So my first thing was to call my employer because I'm out of status. I legally cannot work. So I had to call my employer. I didn't resign, but we were able to speak to each other and see what could be done next in terms of immigration purposes. No, they did not sponsor my stay here. Neither would I have asked them to, because I felt like it was a fairly easy fix in the sense of that I knew what needed to be done and I figured it could be done. So I went ahead and let them know that I wouldn't be able to work for during that time. My next step was to call IRCC. If you're ever in doubt, IRCC realistically is a place to call. It is a long wait for the most part. Like, sometimes you wait hours to speak to someone, but they're the best person to talk to. They see your application, they know what advice to give you, they know exactly what you would need to be your next steps. So I called them, they kind of broke it down to me and explained. I was like, hey, just need to kind of fix this, and which we didn't know. Just fix that part there, and you're supposed to go cheap. So I said, all right, cool. So when we are going to know? Me now have no status, like when we're supposed to do now. There was a program at the time, and I think it was for former holders of postgraduate work permit, some program like that, where the government was giving you a 16-month work permit, or for as long as an 18-month work permit extension, or for as long as your passport would go. So the person I spoke to advised me that that would be my best option. So I applied for that. That took about 5 weeks, I think 4 to 5 weeks to actually come in the mail. I got the approval, I think probably at week 3. But you can imagine, you used to for work, you think you're done with them or something, yeah, you think your PR will come next, and then at least you feel like a cross that take you. Cause you say like, why me have to wait for all of this again? So waited the time, the additional 5 weeks, got it, and during that time when you've applied for that, you don't have implied status like with the other work permits, because you've now fallen out of status, you don't have implied status. So got there, it came to my house, got my social insurance number updated, and then I was able to resume work. I reapplied for my permanent residency after I got as soon as they considered it incomplete, I applied for permanent residency again, and they accepted me because I think I was like 507 in terms of points. So my points were fairly high. So they would, like, I didn't have an issue getting like the acceptance for permanent residency in that regard. Anyways, so updated my SIN, everything. I was able to start working again, applied. When I resubmitted my documents, clearly I fixed the issue. So I no longer had that problem. And then I also included a Canadian police report in it. I was told by a lot of persons that sometimes they'll reach back out to you and ask you for a Canadian police report. So I did not want any more hold up in it. I just gave them every single thing. So I gave them everything that I listed previously, and corrected document needed to be corrected. And I also submitted that Canadian police report along with my Jamaican police report. After all of that happened now, I was there. I felt more comfortable because I had a longer work permit. I didn't feel as bad like when you have like a 1-year work permit, because that made you feel like you have to do everything like super quickly. So that's scary within itself. And I know there's lots of pros and cons in terms of, should I do a 1-year work permit, should I do a 2-year work permit? Honestly, it's up to you. But if you want the wiggle room, I would do the 2-year work permit. And if you have the funds to do so, definitely. But if you want to just try to hammer it out in 1 year, I did it, and lots of people before me and after me will do it, and they found a way. So it's realistically up to you. All right, so I was there waiting, and it was, let me tell you when I got the email to letting me know. And this time around, I knew that it would actually come through because they were taking longer. When I get a reply quick, sometimes it's good, but it's not usually good. So, and I remember the day because we were on our way out somewhere, and it became a celebration for my permanent residence. It was July 10th. Wow, I thought it was in September. Anyways, so it was July 10th. Let me go back on the IRCC website. Anyway, so I remember that I got that email on that day. I believe it was July 10th because I actually posted a picture on that day, so I remember that day. So July 10th, I ended up getting the email that it was, I need to submit some additional things because they didn't have landing anymore. So persons who before, the Panorama Roro, whatever you want to call it, persons before that time, you had to leave the country, whether it is cross the US border and come back over, or however you do it, you had to leave the country and come back in to get landing. They didn't have that anymore. So you had to confirm that you're in the country, all that type of stuff. So I submitted those documents and confirmed what I need to confirm. And that was July 10th. And by September, I got my permanent resident card in the mail. So in totality, it took me closer to 3 years. But if, for example, that document was correct, it would have taken me realistically 2 years because I would have just submitted everything and it would have been 2 years. So, I mean, the journey to permanent residence, I wouldn't say it was extremely long because I feel like there are definitely methods that take longer for permanent residents other places in the world. So I don't think it was extremely long. I genuinely don't think it was a terrible journey. There was always alternatives. So if this thing didn't work out, I feel like you could almost always call IRCC and something else could work itself out. So I didn't think it was terrible, but just in terms of the run up and down and whatever the case, the stress, the anxiety, especially with a 1 year work permit, it is there. So I would pick my, I don't say I regret doing a 1 year program because I don't think I could have afforded to do a 3 year program, to be honest, because it's a 1 year program was expensive. Oh, and the cost to do this, I believe it was like $1,600. Is that $1,200 or $1,600? I think it's $500 or $700, so that's $1,200. Yeah. So I think it's $1,200 to do this. And then your work permit costs are usually around $155 plus $100. So I think it's usually around $300 for your work permit cost. So those are minor costs in the grand scheme of things. So when you think about your tuition, living expenses, all those things, those are grander things. So I think the investment was worth it because I spent $16,000 on school fee, and then in terms of like my base amount of money that I spent while I was in school, I think it was $12,000 for living expenses, etc. So 16 and 12, my math's terrible, about 30 grand. Do I think it was worth it? Yeah. I think it was worth it. I definitely think it was worth it. I would recommend it to anybody who's interested, and anybody who messages me or reaches out to me, they know that like I am dying to it. Like, and it's different for everybody. So even in my video that I made I talked about how much money I made. Some people come and they make like a lot, they make like really good money right off the bat, and that's based on their experience or the companies that they go in, whatever the case, they make like really good money. Some people start off a little slower and they climb their way up the corporate ladder or up the salary chart or whatever you want to call it. So I mean, it's definitely a journey that is unique to every person who takes it. So I think it's worth it, and I would recommend anyone to do it. And that comes to the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.